Obama was in the news. Got a new book. He's going on a little press tour. He's doing interviews everywhere.
He's doing an interview with Dean Samiro.
Did he really?
Yeah, he goes. It's coming on Sunday.
After he went on with Speedy Norman, I knew he was
it's up from here. He's really doing it.
Sorry, I love those guys, man. Sorry.
No, I mean, at first I thought he was just doing like big, like, cause I see he did like an hour-long thing watching.
He did the Breakfast Club.
He did something with LeBron's joint.
Yeah.
And I bought his book. I haven't got.
I had that too.
I need to order that book from my mother.
But he's also in the news for his comments on the slogan "Defund the Police." That controversial slogan that's been making the rounds since the springtime, with the George Floyd and Breonna Taylor protests around America. So Barack Obama said, quote, "You lost the big audience the minute you say it, which makes it a lot less likely that you're actually going to get the changes you want done. The key is deciding, do you want to actually get something done, or do you want to feel good among the people you already agree with?" So what Barack was saying, and obviously, Barack has a way with words. He dunks everything that, everything he says.
Quite an orator.
Basically, Barack Obama is saying defund the police just on his face is a very polarizing slogan, right? Mm-hmm. And like, I'm pretty sure he understands where that comes from, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we don't need to get into it. We already talked about George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and then it's just two people out of the. I mean, I feel like it's hundreds at this point in the last 10 years alone. We're just limited to that, and going back to Emmett Till, whatever. So I figure, and I've had a lot of debates recently with my friend Tisha. We literally on last Saturday had Instagram messages, went back and forth for 3 hours about this topic, about defunding the police. I'm gonna be honest. I'm a little bit more opposed to defunding on its face, just the phrase defunding the police, and I'll get into that as we get through this topic. And she's 100% defund the police up to abolish the police. We'll also get into that. That's a very extreme point, but just wanted to go through what I feel about that, and then get your guys' feeling. We can go through the rest of the topic. So basically, I think the defund the police thing is, I think it's two arguments. It's the messaging. So it's right now, defund the police is a political idea. Whether if it's not like, oh, bail the banks out, or don't bail out banks, or healthcare for all, or immigration reform. It's now it's kind of like a political phrase, political idea, right? And politicians are going to use it. Obamacare, right? It's a political tool that whether you're left or you're right, you're going to use it to rile up your base or whatever. But we got to figure out what we're talking about, defund the police. And just on defund the police, it's not as simple as there's a lot of different, as you read more, you do more research, it's a really wide-ranging topic with a lot of different variables in it. People will look at defund the police and think you mean X. Somebody else will look at it and say, I think you mean Y, and say it's like a Rorschach test. But overall, just on the face of it, that phrase is not a popular phrase, right? What I usually do is I go in, and all you can judge, and it's 2020, people don't really have a favorable look on polls, but I feel like polls the best way to get how people feel about it. In general, defunding the police's idea does not poll well. Most Americans are against it, right? Obviously, it's going to be a hard sell for white people, just in general, whether you're liberal or you're conservative. Yeah. But even among minorities, you would think that minorities will be all for it, but that's not even the case, right?
What about on an age basis? I know that also has to be a thing.
Well, unfortunately, what I read didn't get that deep, but I do agree. I'm pretty sure the younger you are, and we'll get into that discussion as well, is probably. But Latinos as a whole are completely against it, and even Black people. It depends on the poll, right? It's more split than what you think, right? I mean, there's one poll from Axio where 44% of Black people view it favorably, but 38% are against it. So I mean, honestly, it's not there's a poll in Maryland itself where 61% of Black people are against defunding the police. So the way I look at it, I think
it's actually kind of a good system.
I think I agree, because I had a discussion with Tisha too. But I think with defunding the police, you have to get into what the problem is, right? Mm-hmm. The problem is that we feel that police are the policing system is broken in America. And I think when you establish that as a fact, you have two ways of going at it. You either look at it, the policing system, if you feel that way, not everybody does, but I think all four of us agree that it's broken.
Yes.
You can either say the police system is broken and it needs to be reformed, and fixed immediately, because inherently policing, the idea of law and order and policing are not bad ideas. Those are good ideas. Everybody wants law and order. Now, Republicans have taken the phrase law and order and made it feel like, law and order, but in general, everybody wants law and order. They want to go outside and not have to worry about shit. People want law. In theory, law enforcement is not a bad idea. So I think, I personally feel like law enforcement is something that can be changed. We can fix it, we can make it better. There are people on the other side, those are people who probably go as far as abolishing the police, that feel like inherently law enforcement, policing is evil and wrong, and therefore we need to try to go to a society that we don't have that at all. And I think that's what the divergent piece is.
Yeah.
So I'm on the first side, where I feel like the idea of policing is necessary. It's a necessary function of society, whether it's healthcare, access to food, all that. And we need to take steps to fix it. So when I see defund the police, I think defund is the wrong word. Defund means to take money away and put it in different budgets or whatever, whether it's school, all that, and all that's fine. But I think actually you need to put more money into policing, but not in the traditional policing like you see like outdoors, a guy with a gun and a badge and a bulletproof vest. You take that money to remake the police, remake the police force, right? I sent an article before we did this. There's a place in Oregon, Eugene, Oregon, which is that where the Nike's headquarters is?
Yes.
Yeah. And they kind of have this unit called the Cahoots unit, where they have like,
It's a funny word.
yeah, I think it's like an acronym, but
It is. Go ahead.
But basically, for like things that aren't like criminal cases, so it's like mental health issues, someone has like a pay dispute, like anything that doesn't involve like potential like, violence or de-escalation, they just send like a mental health worker and like a first responder out to respond to that. And I think that's great, right? I think that's a great idea. I think that's something that we can do, because a lot of the times when you see these videos, and not all the case, I don't think that was the case with George Floyd, clearly not the case with Breonna Taylor, but the guy who got shot in Philadelphia a couple months ago, his name escaped.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean,
There's so many.
There's been too many of them. I forget names.
the guy clearly was having an episode, and the cops came, and he ended up getting shot.
Yeah.
Situations like that, if you did have a mental health expert to come who maybe doesn't have a gun, and a first responder, and who's trained to de-escalate situations when someone has a knife and they're clearly having a moment, they're unwell, those can have better outcomes than you send a police officer who's kind of, they come there with a gun, a taser, a bulletproof vest. They're coming in, even if they're trying to defuse the situation, their presence is a violence.
You see all this stuff,
Yeah.
it makes you anxious. Yeah.
But the thing is, that stuff costs money. So I think people get wrapped up in defund the police. I don't care if police get more money. To me, like in this situation, the Cahoots people, you can call them what they want, that's a version of the police. That's another arm of the police. And we need to invest more money into having things like that. So when you have a mental health issue, or you have, for instance, like a sex work, like if someone is like getting involved in some sex work stuff, do you need to send like a cop to go do that? Or if it's like if someone is messed up on drugs or alcohol all day, do you need to send like an armed police officer? Or traffic stops. Like why does a cop with a gun have to pull me over if I make like a aggressive left turn, or if I run a red light or something like that? There should be, but these things are.
But why does that cop that is assigned to traffic duty have a gun?
Right, exactly. So like
what
what you said, like instead of it being a cop, this can be just a traffic worker or whatever. And
I don't know, man.
I'll let you go, but my point is like, to do that and to have that type of world, that requires money. So it's not defund the police. It's, in that podcast I put in the group chat, it was a podcast by the ACLU, and it featured two people, and they were both for defunding the police. One person was a little bit more realistic in my opinion than the other one, but he basically said the phrase should be to divest and reinvest, and I think that's the key. So go ahead with your point.
I don't know. I feel like we don't take into consideration the human psyche when it comes to a lot of the things that you're mentioning. So, like, I'll use a nurse for example, or a frontline worker right now. Somebody that's dealing with the public during an entire pandemic.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Absolutely. Obviously the biggest complaint was in the beginning of the pandemic was they didn't have enough protective equipment. They didn't have the tools and resources to do their job.
Yes.
In a way. I feel as though from a human psyche, and I think this also comes to a training piece that I think that not from a defund police type of way. Let me just kind of just backtrack and say how I feel about my position on defund the police. I don't think that I think that some resources should be reallocated to different resources such as training, like Aaron mentioned, de-escalation, more research, and I think more, I don't want to say ethnic sensitivity or more ethnic training and cross-cultural training. I think is a huge area of opportunity. But I think from that perspective, I think that if I'm a guy or I'm a person that's a law enforcement, like the way they're trained right now, I'm sure they've seen 1,000 videos or heard 1,000,000 stories about an officer that did a routine traffic stop and someone had drugs in the car or had a gun or was intoxicated or things escalated. So to take Aaron's point about just a traffic stop official, like if I'm going to do my job, I feel like I should have some type of protection. Like if I'm going to service the people, now that's not an excuse for me to be gun toting and to be that'd be the first area opportunity. But to me, now I'm gonna say, like, a lot of people are gonna argue from the police community, people that are in policing or the people that know police in their family, are gonna say that that's their protective equipment. Like if I'm putting my life on the line, and there's a lot of good cops out there, and there's also some bad ones. And there's a lot of good nurses, and there's also some bad nurses, I'm sure, in this every profession. But I think if people are going to put their life on the line and they see those type of stories or they've heard those type of things, like they want to be protected. And I don't think that we should take guns away from police. I think that having a budget for ARs for individuals, and like I'll say we have SWAT, we have other police departments that are specific for those type of occurrences. I don't think that a police officer have an AR or should have or a shotgun in their background. In the trunk or that type of thing. But I think that like us, I think us going too extreme with saying that they don't need guns or they don't need any type of protection when they're going against who knows what.
Well, okay, but how many times in a traffic stop is most traffic stops are going to be you give a ticket. And if you're gonna just say you need a gun just in that 1%, well, in that case, we all should carry guns. Cause who knows?
I don't think
they're gonna pop off.
But
right?
that's the thing that we don't know. I mean, we would have to take more research to see if it's a 1%. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't think it's just off the eye, it's like a big occurrence of cops having issues.
I misspoke when I don't think that they shouldn't be without guns, but I think they shouldn't have to, like, the instinct shouldn't be to reach for the guns first for a traffic stop.
I just don't understand for a traffic stop or anything that doesn't require anything. Your life is not in danger currently. I don't really see why you need a gun. If you're gonna go break up, that woman's on the street. Are you a prostitute? You don't need. Not that you're gonna pull your gun out of the situation, but why can't that just be somebody who's just specializes in sex work and whatever, and even then that should be different.
But that's the law. I think the problem is that we downplay, again, my point of the human psyche of we have individuals who choose to be police enforcement who may be narcissistic, may be like people that want to be a leader, but now they have authority over people.
Oh, and that's part of it too, right? And part of the money where like if you make it harder to be a police officer, like literally you want to talk about the best of the best, well then you have to pay police officers more and you have to require more experience, and this would be controversial, but if you require like a bachelor's degree, maybe not go that far, but require more like strenuous talent pool. Yeah, you cut down your talent pool, so you're gonna make the job better. And that goes to my point where that you need more money. You need more state funding, local funding to get that done. I don't think you need a gun if someone is. You don't need to have a gun if you're just pulling someone over for a traffic stop I get what you're saying. 'Cause I thought about that too. Like
it's 2 a.m.
Yeah,
you on your last. This your call, and you know what I'm saying. You got a traffic stop.
Why are you under the impression that your life is in danger though? I guess in that situation.
I think the problem is that they. That's
the problem.
They're training them.
Well, that's the problem.
Like
right?
I'm sure they showed them videos of or they heard stories from their patrol partner, or they heard stuff, and it just goes into the human psyche of like shit. Like it's like if your neighbor just got robbed at gunpoint, or they like, fuck, I gotta go get me a gun because these motherfuckers out here, like that type of thing. Excuse my French, but you know what I mean.
I think we should get to everybody's point real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like debate. Dante, I don't know if you wanted to go, but I can.
No, I'm about to you go first. That's fine.
Okay. It's in terms of defund the police. Like, I agree with you guys. The term in itself is confusing to a lot of people. I think a lot of people who are against it don't really understand what defunding really means. Like, it's a very bold term, as Obama was trying to explain. Like, we spent so many times. Like, think about when that phrase first came out, like months ago, early spring, and we're still debating on what defund the police actually means, or to some audiences. What that means for the police. And some people are looping that in with the prison system. Some people are looping that in with a lot of different things, when that's not really what, at least in my understanding, I could be wrong too, but at least in my understanding, defund the police is really just taking away some of the significant funding that they get. Police budgets are extremely high, and a lot of governments, they have police as one of the probably top 5 budget expenses that they pay for. And a lot of the other expenses that they have, like, is especially like using DC as an example, homelessness is a very serious issue. Like, that's not an issue that's really fully addressed. They actually have an office that's supposed to work along with the police, called the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. Their budgets aren't really that significant compared to police. So, like, I think the funding at its core is really just taking away some of that significant funding and putting it in those other areas.
But don't they send cops to do things for homeless, like, you know what I mean?
No, they do.
Like, so, like, that's what I'm saying. Right. Like, take whatever money, like, you can do an analysis and say, we spend 30 hours a week just telling homeless people to move, which is effed up. So why not take that money, and have a unit of the police that just are there to not push homeless people.
It doesn't have to be the police necessarily, because like even like I referenced the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. So like when a crime happens, there's 3 people that come. There's the police. In DC, there's the police. There's the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. And there's also the Mayor's Office of Community Relations. So all 3 of them show up like for a thing. That's one thing we've started to do recently. And one thing the Mayor's Office of Community Relations do, they're like the main person for a certain ward or a certain area. They come out for whatever crime. Even if there's a fire or something like that, they connect them to resources. And the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, they look for the key players. So when you're looking at specifically hood communities, you have like usually a certain key player in each, like whatever neighborhood's beefing with another neighborhood. You have certain quote unquote OGs or certain people who usually cause some of that trouble. So they try to identify those key players, have a presence there, and bring the police there too, so that there's a recognition of these police. Like, because with black people in general, when we think police, we automatically have our defenses up. We automatically scared when we see lights behind us driving. We're automatically scared when we're on the corner and like not doing anything and they pull past. So like it's to establish that relationship that we're here to help you, we're here to protect and serve, to just so that people get more comfortable with the idea of the police. That's the role of the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. So like just to say how I feel about that as a concept, I agree with that completely. I think the name should be changed, because anytime, like Obama was saying, anytime we're wasting this much time explaining what it means, like it's taking away from us actually getting to the actual change. Yeah. But it's a two-sided coin, because at the same time, while we're explaining it, we're talking about this police reform more than we ever have. Like, at least that I'm seeing. We're talking about it a lot, but we're also having to go back to the base and explain what it is. So I think in concept, I agree with defunding the police. I think that putting some of that investment into the office, like whatever the regions have of their office of neighborhood safety and engagement, or their community relation liaisons, putting money into them. And so having reps, like when it comes to homelessness, having reps that come out with, to them. And when it comes to police, and like Aaron said, they do require a certain amount of budgets. Like when they first kicked off the body cameras, I think that's probably nationwide at this point. I would hope so. Not that too many of them care, but like that costs a lot of money for them to do.
Money, yeah. And even if you don't call them police, like what you said, all those people that show up, that's what I'm saying. Right. Like, you can, like, if it's just like, every time I drive here, there's like a homeless guy, like always when I turn off onto no, it's in DC. Like when I turn on the New York Avenue, there's always a guy. He's always out there, and he doesn't do anything wrong. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying like if there was a situation with him or anything like that where he was distressed and he wasn't like if he has a gun, he's just in the that's a 1 in a million thing, just picking people off, whatever. But if he's just out there causing some type of disturbance, like I don't know if you need to send like Officer. Williams, who
rough him up.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Why can't you just send like whatever? I forgot the department you said, but just is everything okay? Is there something we can help you with? We can take you. And if that's not working, and it's like that, then maybe. But I don't know.
I mean.
It's a bigger thing, and that's just how I feel about defunding the police. And Dante, I'll let you explain.
Oh no, what I was gonna say is it's like, well, with that statement in general, like defund the police, like it's just hard because it's like a quarter has a value of 25 cents. That statement does not have a particular value. It can mean multiple things depending on how you look at it and what you want to shape it as. Because I could say that.
I like your
I
approach.
was thinking about it the whole time.
I'm excited.
Like, can we just say this? Yes.
Nah, because it's just one of those things where it's like if you look at it and just think about it, it's like, that statement means so many different things. Like you just said, like, you said that you were in favor of it in one way. Aaron said that he wasn't for it. But if you think about it, you're talking about divest and reinvest, which does go with defunding technically, because you're gonna have to move the money from somewhere. Yeah, and that's just like number one is like the biggest thing is like just to start with what Barack said. What Barack said is similar to what Martin Luther King said about the term Black Power in 1967. So basically, Martin Luther King wasn't for the use of the term Black Power within the civil rights movement because he felt that alienated certain people from feeling they were part of the civil rights movement, because he understood there were white people and other people who did good things and helped black people out. So he did not want to use the term Black Power. Doesn't mean that he wasn't in favor of the notion or the idea, didn't want it to be the slogan on the front line because he felt that turned eyes away from it. Other people that were younger in the movement wanted to use that because they felt radical and they were not radical, I don't like to use the word radicalized, but they were more so open to that idea. So it's like the same thing there in terms of just words and their power. That's the biggest thing about it. Now, overall, as a concept, police probably do need to be defunded just if you look at how much of your budget they take up. And not to say their job isn't important. And even like in terms of what Malik was saying about having a gun, it's like, if you're a policeman, you do have to be trained for the worst possible scenario and everything, which would be, you'd have to draw a weapon. That's the worst possible scenario, and a lot of them jump to the worst possible scenario. But you would need to defund them in order to train some of these other people to do things, in order to like move budgets over to other programs that do like help homeless people, help people that have mental health issues. Like listening to the podcast that we listen to, I want to get that ladies and I'm gonna look at my phone again in a minute, to help like LGBTQ people, women who are going through abuse. You'd have to move the money over to those type of social programs in order to help them. So that is important. So yes, in a way, there is no way to reverse a lot of this damage unless you do defund the police, because you do have to just think about, the money has to come from somewhere. And then on an even deeper level, you have to look at it as proximity. Most of these police don't live in the neighborhood where they serve. And that is a huge problem. So they don't understand these communities. And so yes, they're going to be more prone to violence. They don't understand these people. If you have a white police officer who doesn't spend any time in a black community outside of like the time when he's on the beat or whatever he's doing, then it's gonna be violence because he doesn't know what these things are doing. That was the wrong use of words because I don't want to seem like I'm blaming them. He doesn't understand the community. He doesn't understand what's going on.
Who the key players are.
Yeah, he does, like you just said. And so it's just like, you have to move. You have to move your money around. You have to be smart with it. It doesn't really have to be like you're saying. It doesn't have to be defund, yes, but it does need to be a lot of reinvesting into what you're doing. And the training has to be different.
Yes.
It's enough of these videos, or like you're talking about sensitivity training, not sensitivity, but like trying to train people on these ethnic issues. The training has to change. Something has to be done differently in terms of this. To say like abolition is like, wow, we haven't got that far yet. That's a wild concept. But I mean, like just in terms of like defunding the police, the money has to change, and the way that we're doing things does have to be shifted as well, and that comes through the money.
And you gotta think too, like they had these high budgets, they implemented the body cameras. I feel like a lot of jurisdictions have the racial sensitivity training.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
and so like, what is the money going to?
The money is going, I would assume, I'm looking at the police budget, it's going to like equipment, whether it's guns or cars.
Or that's what I would say. I would say
you take that shit away.
Demilitarize, right? And that's the part.
And you put more money in like
some of these
actual
police cars, they don't need
programs.
these.
Motherfuckers, police cars be
charges.
Motherfuckers be running and nobody be in that bitch, and I hate that shit. When I used to be in the club, it'd be cold as shit outside and nobody be in the car. and the car just running. The police
That's
officer
strategic.
outside of that bitch.
They be trying to create presence, but that's about it.
but yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like it can't be like the issue is right. Local and state government, especially in a post-COVID world, don't have money. They're broke as shit. Like this is something that has to come from
A lot of local governments had money before.
And the thing is, like, it has to come from like. It has to be an initiative of Joe Biden. Like, Joe Biden can't just sign a law, and Congress can't sign a law just to, ride these programs. Like, it has to be ratified by the state governments and local governments. But the federal government has to put pressure on the government saying, look, this is what I was telling, because me and my friend Tisha, we were arguing about this, and she was like, the president has anything to do with it. Yes, he does. Donald Trump can tweet Brian Kemp, I can't believe I endorsed him. And Brian Kemp, governor of Georgia, is probably not going to win his next election because of that. If Joe Biden really wants to start tweeting about reforming the police, and I get it, COVID's the most important thing right now, and I agree with that. But if you really started pushing that and tweeting about that, especially if we were able to flip the Senate, and they were really pushing that, then the local and state governments won't have a choice but to, we're getting pressure here, we want to win an election, so they'll have to do that too. Right. This stuff takes money. Like, I don't care if you call the people that will respond to the mental health folk, the mental health office, or the sex work office, or the homeless office. I don't care if you call them police or you call them whatever. That's
sex work.
Well, whatever. That's semantics. I don't care. I don't care what their title is, if they're police or not. But it takes money to make that a thing. Right. So invest that money. Like, you don't need 36A, whatever. I mean, I've seen police, little SWAT car run around.
Bro, when they breaking up the riots in DC, you look at some of the gear they have, and you're like, bro, why do y'all even have this? Like, bro, at worst, the person in the riot can hit you with a sign. You don't need all this that you have.
My whole thing is, we spent the money, they have the gear, so why do we need to keep it at that level? Like, let's decline it now. Like, you guys have the gear, you guys have the body cameras. Obviously, you need to update those gears and stuff.
I think I saw something about a report of how much waste like from an unused gear type thing.
There's a bunch of unused gear.
I saw a whole line items of ARs and sniper rifles and shotguns and ammo, and I'm like, none of it's been used.
Think about the shit they collect too. They have so many things just in their inventory, bro.
Unless you have an active shooter, there are plenty of them. You're not.
There's just so much has been just a waste of just in stockpile, and it's like, for what? Right.
Well, and
that seems like a war.
Yeah, and that's why some people. And, people take it a step farther. So, defund the police, that's not doing it for me. We don't need police, period. And that's where abolish the police comes from. And that's even a fringier topic than defund the police. But there are people here, and the woman on the podcast, Dante, if you can find her name.
Yeah, I'm looking for it right now. I got you.
They advocate for abolishing the police. I personally think that's a step too far. That's that utopian
That's
thing.
that neighborhood watch shit.
And this goes back.
Even still, we saw what happened with Trayvon.
And the thing too, I think that goes back to I don't remember what episode we were, but Twitter versus real life, and not necessarily Twitter, but just your woke.
Andrea Ritchie,
shout out to her. Your woke bubble with your woke friends. That works. That's cool. But in real life, I don't know if that's not a popular idea, and that's not how the world works. Now, I've read things about that. I read articles about it. So basically, abolishing the police, what I've noticed is they really don't have an. You ask them, so what does a world look like that? What does a world like that look like? They can't answer that.
They have a 10-point plan on her website, but it doesn't. You're left with a lot of questions.
Basically, what they're saying is what they're pushing is to, and I agree with this to a point, is instead of punishing the symptoms of just racial inequality and all that, you address those problems. So you set up programs for kids after school, so they're not in the streets. Yeah. You set up stuff for mental health. You set up places where people have jobs. You set up programs where people have secure housing. The things that cause people to be in poverty, you kind of take care of those before they can create people that feel the need to go out and commit crimes, and there. And I don't mind that idea, but you can't. Even if you do that, I don't think that ever necessitates not having police.
I think that's a separate bullet point from even I think that's from a.
Well, that's what just from what I read.
Assistance and from a society standpoint.
Right. Well, that
has nothing to do to me with abolishing police. Yeah. I think that's a well-known thing is that people that are in poverty commit crimes because they're trying to survive.
Well, that's the idea. They're like, if we live in a perfect world where there's no violence, that's what they'll say. Like, well, there's no violence, there's no crime. We don't need police. Which in theory works, but I mean, like, if there's no global warming, well, then we have nothing to worry about then, right?
So we need to be right on.
Right, basically. So, what do you guys feel about abolishing the police?
I mean, so with abolishing the police, me and Derek had a conversation about it earlier, but it was just like one of those things where I did try to just be more open about these things. I've tried to open my mind up to them and try to just look at where you're coming from in terms of just like your whole idea, where you want to be at, what you see from society. And I don't want to call you crazy. I don't want to make it seem like I don't like the idea or I don't understand.
Oh, I don't like that.
I'm just saying. Let me put it like this. Not that.
I don't.
Or if you don't agree with. Let me put it like this. Not if you disagree with it, but if you just like understand, like fine. Even if you want to talk about like the racist roots of policing in general, like I understand. That's what I'm saying. I'm just trying to understand everything about it. Basically, like even if these people have jobs, like if you think about it, there are still going to be outliers that fall through the cracks and those type of things. And it's just like, well, what do you do in those situations? You still do need police in certain situations. As much as we dislike police, or not to say everybody dislikes police, as much as we disagree with things that police do, or even dislike certain police officers or certain police districts, absolutely fine. I understand all of that. It's like, it's hard to just say get rid of them. And I understand what she's saying when she's like, yeah, but it's like, something that you think, your mind's trained to think of the police just because that's what we've grown up with our whole lives. But even outside of that, if you just think about it, it's like, there are certain things that we need them for. And it's like the system of abolition that you all are talking about. It's not like, in I think it was in one of those cities in New Jersey. I can't remember what city it was. But in one of those cities in New Jersey, they got rid of the police department and brought it back. Because
they fired everybody.
Yeah, they had to bring it back, and they tried to get them more in touch with the community, and they put a lot of work into that. That within the plans that I read within that one, and that's like one of the bigger ones based on what the ACLU was talking about. Within that plan, I didn't see any plan for that. It was talking about having police re-enter society and accept these things and training for them, and it's like, all right, look, I get it, fine. If we want to be against this, yeah, but to get rid of a whole profession, it's not like, it's not like we're getting rid of like miners and it's like, we don't need coal anymore, nigga, we can have clean energy. Alright, cool. If we get rid of police, there are certain things that it's like we do need them. Like, bro, if I got an active shooter at the mall, like you can't tell me that I don't need a cop at that point. It's like, I know they talk about rapists and murderers are like the least percentage of crimes, but it's like, unless you're gonna get rid of the urge to rape or get rid of guns, we still got to think about the what ifs of this, and it's just like a big glaring hole within that plan.
Might be outliers, but they're still happening.
They're still there. Yeah, it's like
it's not thousands a year, thousands.
And that's why it's like, I don't want to call, and it's like I don't want to call her crazy, and I don't want to talk about her ideas. It's a very idealist world. It's a romanticized notion of reality that you live in if you think that they just can't exist at all. It's like, at the end of the day, there are just people that you can't control, or not to say control, but there are people that you can't count on to think the same way as everybody else, that are going to do things that are violent, that are going to do things to hurt people. Like, bro, there are plenty of rapists who go to court, the ones that get caught go to court, and they don't really have an excuse. They did it because they wanted to. The hell? Can you reason with that person at that point? And it's a lot that goes into it. I'm not trying to get super deep into the prison part of it, but it's just so many.
I'd be more open to looking at the prison thing.
Open.
I
got what you
really
mean.
changing
The
that.
police part is a gateway into the prison.
It is, and I'm not disagreeing with that. But even with the police part, it's like missing a fundamental thing of like it basically. It leans very heavily on reform with no punishment, and that's a really heavy thing to think about with police. I know the ultimate function of prison is supposed to be for reform,
rehabilitation versus punishment.
But it's just like it kind of the way some of those things are framed. It's like there's no punishment for people who actually do heinous acts, and I know that we don't catch everybody. We don't catch a lot of people, but it's just like to take these systems away completely without having something set up and it just say, the fun is rethinking it. That's some wild ass stuff to like get
I don't even disagree with that, but like you said, I think we can reimagine. Like maybe don't put someone in jail for 25 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
drugs.
Yeah, reform.
Find a way, but maybe prison. Maybe you emphasize rehabilitation.
Maybe we stop privatizing prisons. All those type of things. It's like it's like the same thing with defund the police.
But for those bad, like some people are just.
Some people
maybe not rehabilitated.
There should be some punishment.
Some people need to be punished. It's just like, and then it was like, they had to pay money to the people who they hurt, and it's like, poor people commit crimes a lot of times. Who the hell are they paying?
I saw that. That was crazy. Like she was saying, like Dylan Roof, like, if he paid the I mean,
like what money?
What money?
Like, they
What
don't
money?
have money like
Oh,
that.
maybe the money that he
He
got
got to
from
GoFundMe.
well, maybe the money that he got from the white supremacists to get
Maybe, sure.
that'll be
Pay
it.
that bail money to them.
Cool. That's it. But like a lot of these people that commit these crimes, they do it out of like
I saw that.
they do it.
That just puts you in a cycle. So instead of in jail, now I'm just in debt for whatever.
And guess what? If they're in debt, we're gonna use them for servitude, which makes them a slave.
So,
So,
Or
that's all
if
for
they're
money.
just gonna go steal it and try to pay off their debt.
Bruh, but it's like
It's just
it's
a
a
cycle.
cycle.
It's a bigger cycle than
And
it
it's
is.
and it's just like like it's fine to have these ideas and we need to discuss them and it's cool. We need an open dialogue about these things, but you just have to be understanding of like people. When people say these things, you just have to understand that it is gonna move the goal line back because then people gonna think about y'all and be like, yo, that makes no sense. Why am I gonna agree with this? Like like when. And like, I don't have any problem with AOC, but it's, or like any of them, but it's like, when they came into Congress, they was like riding this wave, we're gonna impeach this motherfucker. Y'all came in here talking about that, nobody got impeached. Well, he did get impeached. He didn't get out of office, so I mean,
that was never gonna happen.
and it was just like, it's like, the language and the rhetoric, the language and the rhetoric of things are very important. Yes, you can incite a lot of things. You can get people really excited. But it's like exactly what Obama's saying. That's what MLK says. You really got to think about the wording of things. You got to think about who you alienate. You got to think about what you're doing. Yeah, you're going to excite a lot of people by saying you're going to come in and impeach somebody. But then if you don't do it, things are going to get a little tense. And we are going to be like, well, what do we do now? So it's like you really got to have this figured out. If you really want to abolish the police, you have to have, all right, what's plan B, plan C, plan D. And it's like, with a lot of if you want to have fun thinking this out, that's cool. But at a certain point, fun becomes legislative action. And if you can't do anything with it, then it's a lot of fluff.
You're just yelling, making a lot of noise, getting people riled up, and not really having a solution to the problem.
That was the thing. I forgot, one of the Republican senators tweeted that about AOC said she tweets too much. That was a whole thing a couple weeks ago. She does a tweet basically.
Tweeting it, but it's like
his point was that though.
Yes, you do have to follow, and it's like, and I'll even give them credit where it's like, I know it's hard to be a liberal person in a more conservative society and to have these ideas.
Yeah, about to say to be in the liberal party technically, but you're too liberal for your own party.
You'll never, and I understand, you'll never get anything done. It sucks and it hurts, but it's just like, all right, how do you bridge the media? And I feel like that's the part that we have to come to with police reform, defunding police, or even, I don't know, it will never get to abolition, but just the reality. But if you want to think about it, there has to be a way to get to the medium. How do you actually make things happen?
Right.
And that's like the hardest thing that people
I got a quick question. So we're talking about us. So like, I don't know if you guys had discussions with like your parents or like people older in your family, but what do you think your family feels about that? Because I feel like we're in kind of a unique situation, and I might have said this on the podcast before. We have parents that all, not necessarily grew up during the crack era, but they were like adults, and they saw the crack era when we had the highest murder rate in the country, and crime was rampant. And I think that was a scary time for a lot of black people in this area, specifically Washington, D.C.
Oh, D.C. was crazy.
Yeah. I don't think our parents or anybody in our family that's probably older than 35 would ever be able to get down with defunding the police.
No.
Because I feel like I don't know about you guys, I feel like a lot of the people in my family, they all vote Democrat, they're all probably liberal, but they have some pretty conservative views about shit, especially crime and punishment, so...
I think not just that, but they're also in like a vulnerable population of people. Like they're older. Like they feel like they can be preyed on a lot more heavily than, in our generation, our age group. You know what I'm saying? Like, 50 to 60 year old, male, female versus 20, to 30-year-old male, female. It's kind of different type of take on life at that point. So
take it a step further. They also want to keep the world safe for you. They're thinking about you, so they probably.
And I think a lot of them are against it in concept because they don't like. When I was talking about with my dad about this, like in advance of this podcast, they just don't. A lot of them don't like how it's currently phrased. Like it's just not a good way to phrase it to them. It's like, why are we defunding? Like a lot of them don't even know what defund fucking means. It took us forever to like kind of get to a definition that's still debated to this day. So
we still don't have a definition. If you look online, there are like 1,000 different things. I'm telling you, when we were trying to get ready for this podcast, I was confused as shit, and I didn't know what we were talking about because I kept reading stuff.
Vox said this.
Okay, ACLU said divest, reinvest.
Axio said this.
And I'm sitting here and I'm like, do I agree with defund the police? Right. I don't know.
To a lot
anymore.
of people, defund means get rid of. Like that's
And-
what
and-
that's what my father thought they meant. Like for a long time, defund meant like just
Abolish.
absolutely
That
take
meant
away all
abolish.
their funds.
Fine.
Yeah,
And
abolish.
that was why I made the statement about a quarter. There's 25 cents in a quarter. That's
Right.
what the
That's
value
a fact.
is.
You
It
can't
is
change
stated.
that.
Don't change.
Right.
With this stuff, you really don't know. Depending on what website. I was
Right.
Googling, I'm like, defund the police. What does it actually
According
mean?
to
And it all changes. Bruh, it's like, and then the lady on the podcast, well, defund is on the step to abolition. And it's like, technically speaking, you're right, but it's really hard to just say we're going to defund in order to abolish. Like, lady, I really love with some of what she was saying. Like, if I could really just get behind it and live in the same world she did, I'd be so much happier in life. But I can't, because I gotta be real. Like,
But be that pessimistic but idealistic at
at
the same time. Huh?
yeah, like, bro, like it's like some blissful ignorance there. And I'm not trying to call her stupid. I don't want to do that, but it's just like there's obvious things that are being over. She's not stupid. She's a very smart woman. It's just things that are. I feel like there are steps that are being overlooked, and I don't know how much privilege you may feel like you have.
Right.
You really have to examine. Everybody's situation changes so differently. And there are plenty of marginalized groups who probably feel they would be better off without cops. Like, you listen to these stories and you read things and you like, LGBTQ people, they probably feel like, the cops don't do anything to
Some
protect
people
them.
that's only known bad.
And even with us, we're black. And it's like, look, there are plenty, everybody knows somebody who's been pulled over or had an issue with a cop and they did absolutely nothing wrong. Or it's happened to us. Or, it's one of the two. And it's just like, we've all seen those type of things. And it's just like, at the end of the day, even if we've been through these things and we see them, it's so hard, but it's just like, to get rid of the whole system and just say, all right, we're on our own. Yeah, even within and I get it, like within your neighborhood, sure, there are fights sometimes, people are able to quell those things, we can handle them, we can de-escalate situations. But there are certain situations that do end up outside of our control, and to just say, all right, we're going to get rid of this, y'all on your... And that's kind of what it looks like with everything that we've read. It always ends with y'all on y'all own. Y'all got this. Like,
I got this.
And it's like,
just be good people.
like you have social workers, you have good people, you have plenty of people that are trained to do things.
Right.
But it's just like, when there's a dangerous situation that may go beyond, let's say it's a situation that isn't somebody that has a mental health issue. It's just simply two niggas butting heads that really, things just go. Bro, 1-year-old got shot like last week.
People die. People are killed.
It happened. Like, bro, bad things just happen sometimes. Like, what do we do? Like, that goes beyond simple. That goes beyond simple. That goes beyond being a good person. That goes beyond
not shooting
1-year-olds. Bro, when those type of things happen,
You would think it would be that.
man, it's just like, what do we, at that point, and I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm like a freaking sympathizer or like I'm trying to push you one way. I'm not trying to do that, but it's just like, it's really hard to look at situations like that and just like, all right, we don't need these guys. Yeah, we kind of do. Even if they're not making a big enough, even if you feel like they're not making a big enough difference within a community now, but that's just because of the way certain things are done. We need change, but it's like, unfortunately, God, I don't like to insult one side or the other. Unfortunately, they need to be a part of the change.
Right.
There has to be a change there. There has to be a change within who is serving these communities. Maybe we need to get more black cops. Maybe we need to get more people. And I've been pulled over by black cops too. So I mean, it goes both ways. Maybe we need more cops.
Don't ask no old head about black cops in the 90s.
And that's what I'm about to say. It goes both ways. Maybe we need more people. You need people that live amongst people and understand them. They need to be a part of the community. That's like a really big thing that I think is missing.
So at the Hintations, we like to use science. So the most scientific thing we can do is create Instagram polls. So I took the liberty of starting an Instagram poll probably last week about just how my followers, and I don't have a huge base or anything, about how they feel about both questions: defunding your local police and abolishing your local police. So I forgot what the actual numbers were. I had like 47 people at
This poll is
respond.
That's good. 47 is decent.
Yeah.
47 pretty
So for defunding the police, I had 76% said yes and 24% said no. And I think that probably skews right. We're all the people we follow. Our timelines.
You follow know what defund means.
Well, even then, it's just like it's a curated grouping of people. They're all people our age. People our age, like Dante said, probably are.
Mostly our race, probably.
Yeah, they're probably
sure.
our age. They're probably gonna fall under people.
Aaron
who
follows
are
that hockey crowd too. I don't know, man.
They
respond.
Some of them
Oh, here he goes with his black friends.
Nova Scotia PD. All right, they do a great job.
There's
4
one-
years ago,
There's
we had
one
a shooting.
crime here per year. One crime. And they
4
handle
years
it.
ago, the Penguins played the Caps, and the Penguins won.
They
and
keep
there was a
us
shooting,
safe, okay?
And they kept us safe, all right. And
Those
so
are
I
the days
also,
they remember Aaron's black.
Honestly, I did have a lot of people voting this that I haven't talked to since college. So shout out to you guys. So, I mean, thanks for.
But they see things that they want to talk about.
Yeah.
And I also put a poll for: are you in favor of abolishing your local police? And I felt like it was good to put local in there.
Yeah, because
it's
your local department at the end of the day. Absolutely.
And that one was 83% no and 17% yes. So I think that kind of jives what we're saying.
It's the simplest things when you think about abolishing your local police. When your car gets stolen from in front of your driveway on a Tuesday morning, who the hell you calling? I'm about to say
people want security at the end of the day.
I mean,
security.
Have you tried not getting your car stolen?
Let me knock on my neighbor's door. Hey, did you see anything? No, motherfucker, I was asleep.
I'm about to say, like, you can take action to your own.
No, it's because he's in that neighborhood. Well, can you buy me a better house or can you build me a better neighborhood?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Until the government gives me a better job, what the hell you want me to do?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm about to say,
bro.
most people ain't gonna say get rid of their local police department.
I think ultimately though, like I think a lot of people's issues, even whether you want to go defund the police, whether you want to go to abolish police, a lot of people look at these issues in isolation. Like it is very much connected to other things. Like a lot of people, like y'all mentioned before, like are committing some of these crimes because they're in a poverty-stricken area or because they don't have the things that they need. So it's kind of like like you gotta hunt off your needs, pretty much. Like you gotta do what you gotta do, like to survive in survival mode. That's what
don't make it right. What's the freeway? So what we do is wrong.
Right. A lot of people, exactly. A lot of people are in survival mode.
Stop working.
Yeah,
I'm a rocky person.
Like,
You wasn't lying. That's how it goes. Go ahead, man.
So like, it's a lot of people that are in these situations. So just looking at defund the police, like in itself, like like it is good. I think that the concept should be carried out, like to bring the monies to other places. But you still have these racist embodiments. You still have these people in position of high power that their person just got in trouble for shooting the guy on camera, but they're in charge. Hey, that's my guy. You'll be fine. Don't worry about the courts. Like you won't see any time. Like there's a lot of people that are in these high positions that just let their people like get away with murder. And it's a lot of people.
You need accountability.
Yeah. It's no accountability. And even the politicians that come up with these stuff, a lot of them don't feel like picking up these fights because why? Because they associated with political death, basically.
To go against the police unions to that.
But I say, and I'm glad you said that. I don't want to get. I mean,
we said that moment.
But the thing is, part of this too, in addition to having like the federal government like push some of this stuff too. I mean, they can't make laws. You need the police to recognize they have a problem. Right. That's kind of
the big
like
step.
they have to admit. Oh,
big
shit.
step.
Yeah, we
regardless of how much money they have or how much money they allocate, they're still racist.
They have to admit, like, damn, we really lost our way at some point. I don't know what happened, and that might not ever happen. So
we really been shooting niggas.
Like
you need
it's going to take that to like shit, man.
Yeah, man.
I don't know. Maybe it was around 68 we lost. I mean, whatever.
Yeah. Man, we really should let all these Klan members into the academy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So we also, in addition to our poll, we got some messages from. I'll just read some of the messages. So I'm not gonna name anybody, but one listener said, "Wouldn't have a problem with defunding the police, but want to know where the money would be going instead. I don't want to take away funding just to take it," which I understand. That's a good point.
Yeah.
And the person always said, "I think most police forces probably are getting enough money to both defund and still have money to spend on training." So
I think so too.
just take like you said, the gun.
Like training, there's trainings on YouTube.
When you're more than 50% of the goddamn budget, I bet you can't freaking
like you can lose a few bucks, like and help. Yeah.
Also got
pay our teachers, damn it.
No,
that's a whole nother thing, man.
I agree with you. Radical change needs to happen, but not complete abolishment or cutting the number of police on the force. Which, I mean,
Debatable.
Debatable. You know, thank you for responding. Definitely. But no matter what our topic is, if you want to, comment, definitely do that on the social.
Please do.
So it's as you can see and as you've heard, it's a very, very
like you can
convoluted, complicated.
There's
topic.
no answer.
We didn't even get the prison ship, bro.
We didn't get the prison ship.
The prison is actually another episode.
It really is.
The prison system go watch the 13th. That's how I feel about prison.
Nah, that 13th documentary
should not be prioritized.
So we might have to make a part 2 of this episode here, but we're up on 70 minutes, so we're.
Hey, if you've been to prison and you want to be on the prison episode, hit us up.
Yeah, if you have been to prison,
call-ins.
tell us how it goes. So for episode 62, it's your man Shut Up Cole.
Your man Zunruly W here.
It's your boy Malik, aka the Big Geek and Leak.
And it's your boy Darian, aka Clark Kent, and these are the Hentations.
Damn, that's smooth.